first time room 309 whispered my name. I was checking Mr. Lawson's IV in 308. The sound slithered through the wall like smoke, barely there, yet unmistakable. Emma. I dropped my pen. 3 years on night shift, and I'd learned every creak of St. Mary's Community Hospital. This was different. The next morning, I checked Mr. Lawson's chart. Room 308 had been empty all week. When I asked about his transfer, the day shift nurse just stared. Who? That's when I noticed my notes didn't match the records. Medications I'd given weren't listed. Some patients weren't in the system at all. 3 years of night shift memories began to blur at the edges, like old photographs left in the sun. Had I imagined them all, or had room 309 slowly consuming more than nurses? Erasing patients room by room, night by night, leaving only me to remember? The hallway stretched before me in twilight dimness, emergency lights casting pools of sickly yellow every 20 feet. Budget cuts meant minimal staffing. Just me, Ancient Earl the janitor, and a sleeping security guard in the lobby. The ER was empty, unusual for a Friday, but I wasn't complaining. Until I heard it again. My footsteps echoed as I approached room 309. The monitor inside beeped steadily, but that was impossible. The room wasn't assigned to anyone. Shouldn't even be powered. Faded yellow tape crossed the door in an X, do not enter. The edges were curled and gray with age, yet the adhesive held firm. I pulled out my tablet, checking patient assignments. Room 309 didn't exist in the system. The floor plan jumped from 308 to 310. I pressed my hand against the door. Cold radiated through the wood, the kind of deep chill that seeps into bones. You shouldn't be here, Miss Emma. Earl's mop sloshed against the linoleum behind me. His weathered face was drawn tight, eyes fixed on the door. I pulled back. Why is this room sealed? Earl's gnarled hands wrung his mop handle. Some things better left alone, especially at night. He shuffled away, leaving wet streaks on the floor. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, the whispers grew bolder, the beeping more insistent. I searched hospital records in the basement archive, fingers ghosting over dusty files. At first, I thought I'd found a pattern. 6 night nurses vanishing over 30 years, roughly 5 years apart. But the deeper I dug, the more the pattern unraveled. 2 disappeared within 6 months of each other in 1992. Then nothing for almost 15 years before 3 more vanished in a single week. The most recent was just last year, Angela Long, fresh out of nursing school. But I found older records too, crumbling papers from the 1960s describing a ward closure incident. 4 missing in one night. Some files were stranger still. A night nurse from 1973, who, according to her final chart note, treated a patient in 204 who'd been admitted in 2025. Another whose badge photo showed a different face in every weekly security scan, though her name stayed the same. Their files ended abruptly. No resignations, no transfers, just empty spaces where explanations should be. The more I searched, the less it made sense. Room 204 appeared in every report, despite the floor's numbers changing 3 times since the hospital opened. Tonight, the monitor in 309 screamed. Code blue flashed on the overhead screens. My heart slammed against my ribs as I ran for the crash cart. The call should have brought others running, but the halls remained empty, my footsteps the only sound beneath. The shrieking alarm. Security, respond. My radio crackled static. Anyone, please respond. The door handle to 204 turned slowly, metal grinding against metal. I should have run, should have left the building, quit my job, moved to another state. Instead, I stepped forward as the door swung open. The room was standard issue, bed, monitors, chair, window. But wrong, somehow. The sheets bore fresh wrinkles, as if someone had just stood up. Equipment blinked and beeped, though no cords connected them to outlets. No patient, no chart. Wait, there, a clipboard hung at the foot of the bed. My fingers trembled as I lifted it. The admission date was today's date. The time, right now. The patient name was mine. Under cause of death, neat handwriting read, curiosity. The room grew darker, colder. The walls seemed to pulse, to breathe. The window showed not parking lot lights, but infinite darkness. I ran, and I never went back. But some nights I still hear the beeping. Nursing has taken me through countless hospitals and care facilities, each with its own challenges. Before my current job, I worked at a geriatric hospital about 30 minutes from home. With years of experience caring for elderly patients, I felt prepared for the role. But one night changed everything. It was my second to last shift, though I didn't know it at the time. Exhausted from consecutive night shifts, I was assigned to the Alzheimer's ward, a place where patients needed comfort as much as care. Many welcomed my presence, perhaps seeing me as a bright contrast to their routine. In fleeting moments of clarity, they clung to my voice, my presence, a reminder of the world they were slowly slipping away from. One patient in particular stood out that night. Her name was Grace. This was my first time caring for her, and she was noticeably restless. Grace kept talking about voices she heard, and a man in black who stood silently in the corner of her room. The other patient in her shared room, an elderly woman named Ruth, had asked for the curtain to be drawn between their beds earlier in the evening to avoid Grace's outbursts. Ruth was sweet but quiet and forgetful, smiling at me now and then without saying much. By 11 p.m., most of the ward had settled into a peaceful sleep, except for Grace. Every time I entered her room, she looked genuinely frightened. She insisted the man in black was staring at her, refusing to leave the corner of her room. Her fear was infectious. Though I knew her condition likely explained her behavior, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that crept over me. I did my best to comfort her, holding her hands and guiding her through breathing exercises. I assured her that she wasn't alone and reminded her to call me if she needed anything. After a while, Grace seemed to relax, and when I checked on her again later, she was asleep. The hours dragged on after that. Night shifts have a way of stretching time, especially in the quiet hours after midnight. Around 1 a.m., I was in the linen room restocking my cart. The room was small and the silence was thick, broken only by the faint rustling of linens as I worked. That's when I heard it, a soft noise, like a shuffle, coming from the room. The door was closed, and I knew I was alone, yet the sound persisted. I froze, glancing around, but saw nothing. Convinced I was imagining things, I resumed my task, only to feel a sudden, firm pressure on my shoulder. I gasped and spun around, heart pounding, but there was no one there. The room was empty. My hands were shaking as I peeked out into the hallway, but it was silent and still. No other nurses were nearby. Trying to shake off the incident, I returned to my work. When my cart was finally full, I turned to leave and froze. Standing just outside the linen room door, peering in through the small glass window, was a man dressed in black. He was smiling, a wide, unnerving grin that sent chills down my spine. I screamed, dropping to the floor as panic overtook me. My screams echoed through the ward, loud enough to wake the patients. When I looked back toward the door, the man was gone. Seconds later, the door burst open, and another nurse, Maria, rushed in. She helped me to my feet, her face full of concern. "Are you okay? What happened?" she asked. I stammered, asking if she'd seen the man in black. Her expression turned confused. "What man? There's no one here." Maria and I checked the ward together, peering into every room and hallway. There was no sign of anyone matching the description. The patients were either asleep or groggy from being woken by my screams. When we reached Grace's room, she was awake and trembling. "He's here," she whispered as I entered. "The voices, I told you, he's coming." Her voice broke into frantic sobs as she pointed toward the same corner she'd mentioned earlier. When I asked Grace to describe the man, she locked eyes with me. "You've seen him, haven't you?" Her words sent a chill through me. Then suddenly she screamed, "Get me out, he's coming!" Nurses rushed to calm her, but I stood frozen. That night, I was reassigned to another ward. I left early and quit the next day, unable to return. For weeks, the experience haunted me. I've never struggled with hallucinations or mental health issues, and while exhaustion can play tricks on the mind, this felt different. The touch on my shoulder, the man's eerie smile, Grace's terror, it was too real. I haven't worked in an Alzheimer's ward since, but the memory lingers, as vivid as ever. I met Lila on Tinder, and from our first conversation, she stood out. She had fiery red streaks in her dark hair, a sleeve of tattoos on her left arm, and a confidence that was impossible to ignore. She loved working out, but what really caught my attention was a photo on her profile, taken on the rooftop of an abandoned hospital, the city lights stretching out behind her. Curious, I asked about the location. She told me it was an old hospital on the edge of town, a popular spot for urban explorers. It wasn't heavily guarded, just the occasional patrol car sweeping the empty parking lot. Then, without hesitation, she invited me to check it out with her. It wasn't exactly a typical first date, but that's what made it interesting, so I said yes. The night came, and I picked her up at her place about 10 minutes away. During the 20-minute drive to the hospital, we hit it off, chatting and laughing about our lives and interests. Lila had this natural charisma that made it easy to feel at ease with her, even though the destination had my nerves slightly on edge. When we arrived, Lila directed me to park on a dead-end street hidden behind a row of tall bushes. It was dark, and the isolation of the area only added to the suspense. From there, we had to walk about 5 minutes to the hospital grounds. She led the way confidently, hopping over a small barrier separating the road from the massive parking lot. We jogged across the open space until we reached a grassy patch near an entrance she claimed she always used. The entrance turned out to be a shattered basement window. Lila told me to wear old clothes that could handle a little damage, and I was grateful for her advice as I climbed through, carefully avoiding the jagged edges. We turned on our phone flashlights to navigate the dark, eerie basement. Lila seemed completely at home in the creepy environment, and I trusted her to guide us through. We climbed a staircase to the first floor, and I was starting to feel the weight of the eerie silence. The hospital was massive, and every step echoed ominously through the empty halls. Lila chatted casually, her voice louder than I was comfortable with. I almost wanted to ask her to keep it down, paranoid that we'd draw unwanted attention. As we walked, a faint noise interrupted her. It sounded like a door creaking open or shutting down the corridor. Lila stopped mid-sentence and whispered, "That's not normal." My heart rate spiked as we turned off our flashlights and stood still, listening intently. A sudden bang echoed much closer this time, sending adrenaline coursing through my veins. We scrambled silently, Lila leading the way. In the chaos, I barely managed to keep up with her as we bolted up the stairs to a higher floor. Only when we were several levels up did we feel safe enough to speak again. "It's probably just other explorers," she tried to reassure me, though her voice betrayed some uncertainty. But it's strange we didn't see any other flashlights. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the stairwell we had just escaped. Someone was coming. Panic set in as we took off running again, navigating the labyrinthine hallways. Lila's confidence seemed to waver as she admitted she wasn't sure where the sounds were coming from. Eventually, we found an outdoor area on a lower rooftop. The fresh air was a relief, but the sense of being followed loomed heavy. After catching our breath, Lila guided us through a shattered window into what appeared to be the ceiling of a large room. Narrow wooden planks were stretched across the beams, forming a precarious path over a 10-foot drop. "Just follow me," she said, stepping carefully across the first plank. I hesitated, acutely aware that a single misstep could result in a nasty fall. We reached a wide beam where we could sit for a moment, legs dangling over the edge. Just as we thought we were safe, faint footsteps echoed below. Our flashlights revealed a man standing beneath us, grinning. "Come on down," he beckoned, his voice low and menacing. "Are you a cop?" I asked, trying to sound steady. He ignored me, stepping toward a door. "He's cutting us off," Lila whispered. Heart pounding, we bolted. We barely made it through the basement window, sprinting to my car and locking the doors. Over burgers at Wendy's, we tried to process it all. That night changed everything. We never went back,